Hey everyone, how's it going? Azren, the language nerd here. Hope you're doing very, very well. Welcome to episode number 8 of Azren's Journal. This is the segment on my YouTube channel where I share my personal language learning journey and the segment where I give you guys a whole bunch of language learning tips. With that aside, let's jump right in. The biggest thing on my mind today when it comes to language learning is the connection between consistency and confidence. You see, as you've observed on my YouTube channel with this segment, I have been incredibly consistent over the past few weeks with being disciplined and studying Gujarati and Mandarin on basically a daily basis. And I've noticed something incredibly fascinating, which is that nowadays, even though I haven't really learned that much additional new knowledge in both in both Mandarin and Gujarati, I feel disproportionately more confident when I have to speak or communicate in those two languages. And as I'm pondering and trying to brainstorm why that is, there's two big things that stand out. I think first of all, with the daily practice and the daily study and the daily usage of those two languages, my brain does not need to put as much effort to communicate in those languages anymore. It's kind of like our brain is a form of library, like a massive, huge, expansive library that has millions and millions of different book sections. And when you start to learn a new language, your brain creates a new department or a new section in the library where the knowledge of that language is stored. In the initial phases of learning that language, you actually get lost. While you're trying to look for this department in your brain and you're walking through the aisles of the library, it takes you a very long time to access that part of your brain and access the knowledge you have of that language. And that is why it takes us a long time to actually communicate different messages and get words out of our mouth and be clear and concise, etc. That's difficult. But when you're doing this daily practice, it's almost like you are walking to that section of the library every single day, and suddenly it doesn't take a long time for you to access the Chinese part of your brain, or in my case, the Gujarati part of my brain. And so, whatever knowledge you already have there, nowadays I feel like I can actually fully utilize it. You see, a lot of people make the mistake with language learning, and they try to continuously add new knowledge and learn more things, more vocabulary, more grammar, all this new stuff. They're trying to go really wide with their knowledge, but you need to actually make sure you're going deep with the knowledge too, so that the knowledge that is already in your brain, you are actually able to access it quickly and actually able to apply the knowledge that is already there. And I can tell you from my personal experience, it is so nice to have those nerves come down and feel way more confident and way less nervous when communicating in both Mandarin and Gujarati. It's such a nice feeling. And I encourage you guys to bring that level of consistency into your language learning routines and into your language learning process. I fundamentally believe that it's going to help you tremendously. On the topic of consistency, what is also beautiful about it is it allows you to consistently and at a natural rate and natural pace continue to grow wide with the language. In other words, continue to learn more words, more grammar, more idioms, more expressions, more this, more that. It kind of streamlines the process of being able to do that. So if I look at, for example, my Gujarati and Mandarin, on the Mandarin side, I'm currently at 113 new words. Among those new words, there are some different grammar points that I've also included in there. I've just kind of bulked it all into one big group. And then on the Gujarati side, currently I'm at 25 new words, plus there are probably about 10, I'd say 5 to 10 other words that are sitting on my laptop that I learned like literally yesterday, last night, that I just haven't had the time to really dive into and add them into my book here so I can officially count them as new words. So ultimately, I've been really making some progress in terms of the amount of knowledge that is in my Gujarati and Mandarin library in my brain. And that feels fantastic. Switching gears a little bit, another thing that is going to help a lot of you, I think, is actually trying to slow down how quickly you are speaking in whatever language. And by the way, this is actually something that's going to help you in your mother tongue as well. A lot of us, many of us, most of us maybe, have a tendency, even in our first language, to speak way too fast. And slowing down that speed is tremendously important. And it allows us to speak a lot more clearly and in a lot more of a concise manner. This is something I discussed on my podcast a few days ago, or actually by the time this video comes out, maybe even a week or 9-10 days ago. And, I think a good general rule to follow, and this is, by the way, something I live by when it comes to public speaking, or I try to anyway, you need to make every effort to speak twice as slow and twice as loud as you feel necessary when you are speaking in a foreign language. It will help you a lot. Switching things around a bit, let's talk about my personal life because there are some things I'd like to share with you. First and foremost, I have been inconsistent the past few days with my exercise regimen and my whole exercise, how I've been doing physical activity on a day-to-day basis. I was doing a really good job for probably a week or two, but the past 3-4 days, I've not been doing that great. And as a matter of fact, I have not actually done any exercise at all. It actually feels a little bit embarrassing to share that on camera right now, and I don't know, I feel self-conscious about it, and I feel like I should be doing better. I think the biggest explanation as to what's been going on is I'm a person who I'm not someone who quickly adapts when there's a change in my life. It takes me a moment to actually calibrate that change and figure out a new routine that works well for me. And so if we were to rewind in some of these previous videos, I had a really solid routine going, but the routine was based upon nobody being home. There was no family home, and so that put me in a specific mindset that allowed me to execute on that routine that I had. However, the past literally 4 or 5 days here, as I'm recording this video, my sister has been home on a daily basis, and my mom has been home on a daily basis. My mom is on holidays right now from her work. She is a school teacher. And so my sister also has not been going to her day programs. So when both of them are home, I find that it just throws a different wrench and throws a different dynamic into what my day-to-day schedule looks like. And I have not found the best way to adjust to that quite yet. I find that when my sister's home, I want to spend a lot more time with her, which is fantastic, by the way, and I have been spending more time with her. It's just that I haven't been getting some work done that absolutely has needed to get done just because of this whole dynamic switch. So I'm trying to problem solve that, and hopefully I can update you in a future video to tell you, yes, I'm back on track, things are going really, really well. The final thing I want to share in terms of personal updates, which has a bit of a language connection, funnily enough, is the connection between fluency and confidence. I think a lot of people would naturally think to themselves that the more fluent you are in a language, the more confident you would feel when communicating in that language. And obviously there is a lot of truth to that statement. However, there's not a direct correlation between fluency and between how confident you feel. Let me give you an example from my life. I have a reasonably strong level in Gujarati, and yet there is woefully little content of me speaking Gujarati in a very natural kind of way on the internet. As a matter of fact, I actually think there's more Mandarin content of me online than there is Gujarati content, even though my Mandarin level and my fluency in Mandarin is way less, like way less than my overall Gujarati level. And when I dissect myself mentally and I try and figure out what the heck is going on, essentially for me, I'm starting to realize that there are different elements in play when it comes to how confident I feel when speaking a language. For instance, with Mandarin, there's no pressure. There's nobody who consumes my content who speaks Mandarin whose opinion I really heavily care about or place a lot of emphasis on. Versus for Gujarati, I know that there are people in my family, in my real life, who watch my content, and if I'm putting myself out there with Gujarati, I know that I'm putting myself out there for judgment from people who I actually see and have known my whole life in my own city, that are my flesh and blood. And there's a different dynamic in play there, and I feel way more self-conscious. And so lately I've been thinking about that, and I've realized that every single one of us, there are different things in play that control how confident or not confident we feel when speaking another language. And it's important to realize what those elements are for you personally. Otherwise, we can fall into this trap of thinking that, okay, let me just get more fluent, let me get more fluent, let me get more fluent, let me push that fluency higher, because then I can feel more confident. But the root problem behind that confidence has nothing at all to do with your overall fluency. The only problem is that you maybe value the opinion of someone, and you're just scared of their opinion, and no matter how fluent you get, you're always going to have that seed of insecurity inside of you. It's kind of like with my French. Even when I was so unbelievably fluent in French, almost like my English, it was amazing. I remember I would still sweat in my armpits and my back sometimes when I'd speak the language, because I remember the tension I felt when I first went to France. I remember really being afraid to make mistakes and analyzing myself, psychoanalyzing, self-analyzing myself. And even when I had gotten to a very fluent level, I held on to that kind of mentality and I didn't let it go. I didn't realize that I didn't need to hang on to it anymore. And so it's something I highly recommend you think about, both for your languages, but even just in your personal life. I think we do that as humans. We think that by getting really good at something, we're going to feel less nervous about that said thing. And I find that a lot of us, we're not attacking the root problems, we're just we're trying to solve root problems with surface level solutions. So anyway, hope you guys liked episode 8 of this language learning journey or journal here. Hope you liked it. Obviously I switched the format around a little bit and tried to do things a bit differently, so let me know what you thought of this different style or different feel of video. I think a lot of you are gonna like it. And yeah, we'll chat later. Bye for now. See you.